Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to a real special episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. I am with the founder of the DC Project, and you're going to hear all about it in the next 45 minutes to an hour. Dianna Muller is our guest. Dianna, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we got to
blame on Whitetail Rendezvous.
Whitetail Rendezvous. Yeah, we got to blame Mia Anstein, board member for POMA, Professional Outdoor Media Association, good friend and a fellow Coloradian, and I used to be on the Sportsman's Roundtable for the state of Colorado with her. Anyway, enough of saying, no more shout outs for you, Mia. Let's jump right into it.
And DC Project delegate from Colorado.
Thank you for that. And oh yeah, Hannah, retired policeman, is a international and national award winner for shooting, and she'll get into that. So let's talk about the DC Project and the importance that everybody listening to the show needs to know about it, needs to visit it, and needs to support it.
Okay. Well, we'll jump right in. So the DC Project is 50 women, one from every state, going to Washington, D.C. once a year for now, and meeting our legislators as gun owners and Second Amendment supporters. So you can kind of think of us as the anti-Moms Demand Action. Moms Demand Action is very well funded, very well organized. They've got Students Demand Action now, and I keep an eye on them because, you know, their messaging and their unit, whatever that is that's behind them, is huge and ginormous, and I don't see that coming the firearms industry space. So I'm really concerned about how we, especially in today's society where social medias are censoring us, are squelching us, we can't advertise on mainstream media. So I'm really concerned about how we get our message out that these people don't speak for all of the women, and just basically get people inspired to get engaged and not be the silent majority.
Want to become a smarter deer hunter? Know when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Well, Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created to do exactly that, because many people have told me they struggle with spending all days in the wood and never seeing a deer, only shooting does and young deer, leaving the woods empty-handed way too many times. Found Mr. Wonderful, but just couldn't get on him, having difficult finding a place to hunt, recognizing possible mistakes you're making every year, having tried and failed to find qualified mentors who deliver results. If you had these frustrations or struggles, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com, and there you'll find a 13-module course to help you solve these problems. Again, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com and find some answers. Now, thinking just from the hunting side, I know from my reading research that women are the fastest growing segment in the hunting community, growth over 10% a year. Now, let's talk about women who are learning to shoot, getting concealed carry. That is a very robust growth industry.
Correct. I've heard the same thing. I didn't know that about hunters, though. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is on hunters. Do you have any stats of the number of women per state, per nation, that have said enough's enough? Yeah, I certainly hear what the other people are saying from these other groups that refuse to protect themselves, and I'll just say it the way I see it. And all these comments are my opinion. But there's some people out there that say, no, gun to take away, and who's going to protect them? If you're a single mom getting gas in a gas station, and I'm just set up something we'll talk about in a few minutes, but and somebody approaches you, what are you going to do, Mom? And you should not be
Right.
a victim. And part of what I understand the DC Project is empowering women not to be victims. Is that correct, or am I misspeaking?
Well, we certainly are proponents of self-awareness and self-protection, but that's not our major goal. Our major goal is to be an action group of people who are trying to really create relationships, whether it be with our legislators. And going back to that messaging, now our focus going forward is going to be going back to the state level. We feel like we've been doing really good work. This is our 4th year that we've been going to DC. We've got a friendlier version of a president, and we feel like we're doing really good there, but there's a lot of state stuff going on. So our focus going forward is going to try to be making more of an impact, but I would like for your viewers, your listeners to understand that this is all of our calling. If you care about the outdoor lifestyle, if you care about the Second Amendment, in the firearms community, it's super important for us to become engaged in a local level, a state level, and a federal level. And that's not just legislators. That's people in your church, in your school, at the grocery store. It's so important for you to be seen as a gun owner and that you're normal and that you're friendly and really creating those conversations and establishing a messaging, a pro message for the gun community.
So I meet you in a grocery store and I said, hey, we just get to talking about that head of lettuce we're looking at. And so how do you open the conversation about who you are and what you're doing?
Well, at the grocery store, you might be planting seeds. You might have to take it a little bit tinier and being kind to somebody. And then the next time they see you, they may see you in a different area that you would have an opportunity to say, hey, do you go to the range? Do you want to go to the range with me? Because just striking up a conversation with a stranger over a head of lettuce is probably a bridge too far. But being kind to them, and you could wear shirts that are, obviously identify you as some sort of gun community person. And when you do that, please, please, please don't do that on bad days. Because remember, you do represent us. Watch your language. Don't, really try to be inviting. That would be my suggestion.
Because women do that so much better than men. I mean, there's no question about it.
It's not outside, and it's kind of outside the comfort zone as opposed to any kind of gender. It's kind of outside the comfort zone for introverts. It's really difficult for introverts to engage or start a conversation like that or be out there. So it may not be a gender thing, because I think you and I could probably be dropped in a foreign country and everybody would love us.
Well, the people said, Bruce, you can talk to a tree. And so, I have talked to trees in the past. They never answered back, but anyway.
It's a great conversation.
Yeah, right. Okay. Let's get back to DC Project and the importance. So when Mia goes to see Corey Gardner, Lamborn at the Hill, what is she talking to these gentlemen about?
Okay, so how the DC Project works is, and actually Colorado is very well represented, especially in the hunting community, because Lanny Barnes, one of the twins from the biathletes, are you familiar with them?
No, I am not.
Oh my gosh, you have to have her on the show.
Well, just send her an email.
She and her twin sister are 3-time Olympic biathletes. And they came into, when they retired from that sport, they came into the 3-gun sport. But they're both huge hunters, so they would definitely fit. But Lanny has come with us for the past couple of years, and she's a great representative for Colorado. So what we do is we all get there. It's traditionally about one person per state. That's all I can manage. We're going to build on that going forward, especially trying to get down to the state level. But one person per state. So I bring everybody together. We have a reception and we break up into small groups. Now I break these small groups up well in advance, about a month in advance of our trip to DC. And then they have their own little page that they communicate and deconflict their meetings. because it's up to every girl to make meetings with their legislators. So Mia or Lanny would call Cory Gardner's office and say, you know, hey, I'm looking to come visit in DC during these time periods. When can we get a meeting? So every girl does that. They deconflict their own meetings and they have an agenda once they get there. So we get there on a Tuesday. Tuesday night, we have this reception and we kind of have a powwow about, you know, what kind of laws they're talking about on Capitol Hill right now. This year it was red flag laws and some extended background type stuff. So we try to get briefed a little bit on that. Our focus isn't there to be an expert on law. I want the girls to understand what's up there so they can have an opinion on it. But the focus of the DC project is to talk about the girls' stories and make that personal connection with those offices, whether it be with a member or a staffer. So we do that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning. We have meetings, and if you're not on that team, you may never see another team. It's a pretty small space, so the odds of you passing a team in the hallway or seeing somebody in the hallway are pretty good, but you stay with your small group, 4 or 5 women. You don't want to get too big because you can overwhelm an office and you really can't talk. Not everybody can have a say. So Friday afternoon, this is where your listeners can tune in special because we would love to have them join us for a rally on the Capitol lawn. This year we were on the West Lawn, which is between the National Mall and the Washington Memorial, and then the Capitol is on the other end, and you're right there on the Capitol lawn. It's very, very powerful and very, very beautiful. I love the symbolism of where we're at and what we're doing. And probably one of the only times that anybody in that area is hearing a pro-gun message. I don't know of any other rallies that are going on in Washington, D.C. I really kind of wish that our community would have one. So maybe the DC project will gain some traction and have everybody flood in on Friday afternoon for a rally.
Now, how are you funded?
Until this year, all these girls have come on their own dime and their own time. Completely. I would try to get some money to feed them one night. This year, I went ahead and did a 501c4. A C4 is the difference between a 3 and a 4 is that the 3 is tax deductible for the contributor and a 4 is not. But the 4 doesn't have any restrictions on lobbying. And although we don't consider ourselves lobbyists, we're certainly not registered lobbyists. We're activists, we're advocates. That's not what we do, but I can see where somebody would argue that we're lobbying, grassroots lobbying. And so I didn't want the headache of somebody like Lois Lerner coming after me because I was bringing in money to do this project. So this year was our first year and we had a fundraiser. And for the first time, I was able to pay for the ladies' housing. So that was very exciting for me to be able to at least cover a little bit of the expenses for the girls.
And if somebody wanted to reach out, what's your website?
dcproject.info, info. And I could also give my email address as long as people don't sell it. Is that advisable? Or they could contact us through there or Facebook. I'm Dianna Muller, 3Gun on Facebook and Di3Gun on Instagram. There's always instant messaging and direct messaging on there. And then the DC Project Foundation is our IG page, DC Project Foundation. And then on Facebook, it's just the DC Project.
Okay, so there's plenty of ways to reach out to you. So if one of the listeners said, heck, I want the ladies to have some cold chicken on me, they just go to your website.
We'd even take hot chicken. We'd take hot chicken prices. Yes, there's definitely an easy way to donate. There's also, we're selling t-shirts. That's one of our t-shirts. And then the educate over, I don't know if you can see it, but legislate is in black and it has educate over the top of it. Those are kind of the 2 logos that we have. And we've got some shirts coming, some more shirts, but there's just a donation button there, as well as for traditionally these past 3 years, I've been trying to keep this small so I can manage it, but I'm ready to blow it up. If these fundraisers produce something good enough, I would really like to see somebody do the managing full time. I can't do it. I've got too much on my plate, and I feel like that this could be so much more if I had a full-time person I'm really going to be focused on raising some money, doing some other things at our rally. Like I said, I've been watching Moms Demand Action and David Hogg. So I'm doing what I see them doing in Washington, D.C. Every time we go to D.C., there's always messaging, anti-messaging, whether it be on a sign or there's signs everywhere or displays. One year there were shoes all over the lawn. Who did that? And why can't we have, something that represents our beliefs? So I want to do stuff like that. I want to be visible. And I don't know if you know it, but they have rallies and they have like buses just pull up and people get off. Everybody's dressed alike. They do their rally for 15 minutes. They get their pictures. I mean, I don't even know if these people are volunteers or if they're paid to do this, but that's what I'm talking about is
I would say they're paid. I would say that well orchestrated. Everybody says, show up. You're going to get $100 a day because there's people that don't want our lifestyle. You're my lifestyle.
Right.
And they'll do anything. And money to them is absolutely nothing. And so if you're one of those people listening to the show, DC Project is coming after you. The other thing you said, and I'll just announce it. So if you're interested in getting involved in becoming the executive director and running this sucker and raising money is the most important thing, get a hold.
Yeah.
Mrs. Muller, and get a hold of her directly. And what's your email address so they can do that? Don't give me your phone number, just your email address.
I don't know that I wouldn't rather give you my phone number. My email address is di at pro3gunner, PRO, the number 3 gunner.com. All
right. So there is a position and it's up to you to get it funded and so you can get paid, but that's the way it works, folks. But if you really give a rip, if you got the time, if you got the smarts, you get the Rolodex, if you get the influence, then it's about time somebody stood up, and as the C Project already has, but you don't understand how well funded the opposition is. They are incredibly well funded, incredibly. Right. And the people showing up could give a rip. Either way, they're getting paid. Yes, there are some women out there that have lost their children, and I'm sad for you. On the other side of that thing, I would have rather been in front of that bullet and taken that bullet for their child so they didn't have to go through that suffering. Okay, and so I would take that bullet, and then I would be dead, but your child would be alive. See, that's how I think. And a lot of my friends in the hunting community and the people for the Second Amendment, we would die so that your children would live. And you just don't get it. And I get fired up about this because you just don't get it. Why would I give up my life to save your child and then you rail on me and my liberties because you don't want guns? It doesn't compute.
Because they have a false sense of security because it's got to be the gun's fault. It can't be the person behind the gun. But I was going to tell you that our Miss Georgia, Lucretia Hughes, her son was actually murdered with a firearm. And she still understands that the Second Amendment applies to her. It applies to anyone, everyone, any American citizen. So she comes to Washington, D.C. with us and she tells her story, which is very powerful. I mean, it takes an intellectually honest person to recognize that this instant wasn't A plus B didn't equal C, and share that and be able to share that. And there's so many, the women on our project, they're so diverse and they are so amazing with stories that are very powerful. All of us have a story, but there are some who have lived through horrendous things. For them to tell their story to, let's say, Dianne Feinstein's office because she has said that she doesn't feel like you can defend yourself, a female couldn't defend herself with a firearm. Well, I have somebody on the team that has defended herself successfully with a firearm. So those are the kind of stories that it's important for them to hear. It's important for them to know. And I kind of thought of this idea because do you remember in probably 15, it was somewhere on the campaign trail that Hillary Clinton was just demonizing the coal industry. And there was a time and place where she came across a table face to face with this man and his wife who was a coal miner. And I thought, that has to be pretty sobering to have those same conversations in front of somebody that you're calling a horrible person when obviously they're not a horrible person. So that's always been in the back of my mind when, I may not be able to change Dianne Feinstein's, I may not be able to change her mind or her position, but she has to go to bed every night knowing that I think she's wrong, that her constituents, whoever comes from her state, has a different opinion. So she's not going to get off the hook thinking that there's nobody challenging what we feel are her deceptives or her erroneous thoughts about gun ownership.
Do you want to become a smarter whitetail hunter, knowing when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Over the past 4 years, people have asked me, hey, I'm struggling with spending all day in the woods and never seeing a deer, only getting opportunities at doe or young bucks, leaving the woods empty-handed too many seasons. Located the deer of a lifetime, but just flat out missed. Having difficulties finding a place to hunt, recognizing mistakes that you're making over and over again, and you want to eliminate them. Having tried and failed to find qualified mentors. Well, you've come to the right place. Why? Because Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created by me, Bruce Hutchin. It's a 13-module course that'll talk about being lost in the deer hunting forest. Never hunted. What is a hunter? What is an adult onset hunter? What rules apply? Finding a mentor, choosing a weapon, finding a place to hunt, scouting a hunt location, stand sites, stand access and exit, reading sign, and when to hunt. All these are available for you at deerhuntinginstitute.com. Go now to deerhuntinginstitute.com and sign up for the best deer hunting course in America. So listeners, 2020 is coming up, and I'm not going to tell you how to vote. All I would say is somebody can get this to Donald Trump Jr. so he can get it to his father, this podcast, so his father could hear that there are women who have significant influence in this country, and it's going to be growing because people like me and people like Dianna are just fed up with the media for demonizing guns and then demonizing women. Forget about men. I mean, we're just thrown on the pile because I'm 73 and I'm white and I'm male. So I don't count. I have absolutely no rights at all. It's ludicrous, but that's the way it is. But I will protect myself. But if somebody would get this to Donald Trump Jr. and then have him get a hold of the DC project, and then next time the ladies go to Washington, have 15 minutes with President Trump and just share what they represent, because how many people in your group? 50. So you have 50 people going back to their state. Those 50 know 10. So that's not a lot of people. But then the impact through social media and through the resolve and passion of these women, and just the story of how a lady lost her son to a gun, and she's part of the group, and then another lady protected herself, and she's part of the group. Then we have the stories, and stories are what people listen to and hear, not
right.
Facts. Facts don't count. I had a friend that said the United States is the worst murder rate in the world, but if you take out 5 cities
and suicide.
Yeah, and Colorado Springs, unfortunately, ranks really hard at the kids. But so you take out 5 cities, United States, and then we ranked 89th in the world. So, folks, gun control isn't the answer, because all those 5 cities have gun control, and that doesn't work.
Right.
And so, we have issues. And so I guess I've said more than I thought I was going to say, but anyway. Having said that, so the DC project, you get together. What time of year do you go to Washington?
We usually try to go in June. This year we went in July, and praise the Lord, we got some decent weather. It was still hot, but it wasn't as hot as it could have been in July, because that Friday, going back and forth, we probably put 7 miles a day walking once we leave our hotel. and getting to all the different meetings and all the different buildings. So we were lucky this year in July.
So one thing I'd like to shout out, now next year, what's your plan, July again?
Well, that's the problem, is I can't advertise when we're going to go because they haven't set the congressional calendar yet. They do that about the middle of December.
Okay.
So once they open up that calendar, then I pick a date and then we go from there. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. And then it'd be neat to have 10,000 ladies on the Capitol steps.
Well, it doesn't. It's open to anybody. The rally is open to anybody. So it doesn't have to be ladies, although that would be amazing, especially with all of the squad and how mainstream media loves to praise all the, basically, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I feel like mainstream media praises the left of the Democratic women. They won't touch a Republican woman and everything that they've done. So they demonize them. So it's obviously a left thing, it's a political thing as opposed to a female thing, which anyway, men, you're welcome. You're more than welcome. And honestly, I wanted to do something. So I hope the DC Project, if they hear about this, that you don't have to wait for me. You don't have to be a member of the DC Project because it isn't really an organization, but I hope it inspires people to just go shake a legislator's hands or go to a board meeting or go to a school board meeting, your local, your state, go visit your state legislators. And then your federal legislators, they have offices in their home states as well. So they'll have an office in DC, they'll have an office at home in their home state. So you could always meet the same people that we're meeting in DC, you could meet them at home. So my hope is that the DC Project just inspires everyone to get engaged and be seen and heard, because that's really where we're lacking, is in our messaging and in our capabilities to be seen and heard. Speaking of, did you see the Time magazine cover last November?
No.
So you should look it up. It was a trifold of an artist named JR, an amazing guy, French artist. And what he did was he photographed 250-ish people. You were either pro-gun or you were anti-gun. And he put us all together in a mural. And it turned out amazing. Time put it on the front cover. It was a trifold. And on the digital copy at time.com, I think it's / Guns in America, and there might be hyphens in there, but if you just Google Guns in America, it'll take you to that project. And there's some really high profile people on the anti side. Gabby Giffords, Alyssa Milano, Eric Swalwell. Me and Eric Swalwell kind of went round and round about his comments. And Steve Scalise on the pro side, and trying to think of who else. But anyway, on the digital side, if you hover your mouse, your indicator over a face, you can click on it. And they gave us an open mic. So basically you can hear what my position is and why I support the Second Amendment. You can click on Alyssa Milano and you can hear what she said. And honestly, it was, well, everybody deserves to be safe. Well, I'm like, I concur. I just think that my way of being safe is being able to defend myself. And you think that you want to live in a utopia. So, but it's really interesting. My point in that being is that going back to the messaging and that taking, I was like, Time did us right. That is the first time in my adult life that I have seen a mainstream media source give gun owners a voice. And I actually told the editor, I said, hey, this isn't going to go anywhere, right? Because nobody's going to talk about this. Nobody in mainstream media is going to want to give us a face or humanize us. They want to say that we're cold and we love our guns more than we love our kids and things like that. So I didn't think it would get a whole lot of traction, but it is up for an Emmy. I don't know when they vote for that, but it's up for an Emmy. And do you have time for a quick story on that?
You bet.
So I was the pro. They invited for the big reveal. And remember that we didn't know what this was going to turn out to be. And we know about Katie Couric, and we know how gun owners can kind of be manipulated. So we were terrified to participate in this. We had a great experience, but we still hadn't seen the finished product. And so New York City, Time office, an art gallery. There's going to be a grand opening reveal type thing. And they invited one anti and they invited one pro. Well, I was the one pro. And then they invited a guy named Anton Lucky from Dallas, Texas area. His story is he's a ex-gang member, ex-con, has turned his life around, and now he wants to do good for the community. Well, he's been told that guns are bad, and his experience with firearms has probably not been all that positive. So he came to the project with an anti-gun message. So fast forward to he and I are both in the Time office, and we're taking the tour, and we get along fine. Ex-cop, ex-con, it's awesome. And they kick us out. They're like, okay, we'll see you guys tonight. And I look at him, I'm like, so you want to get some lunch? You want to go be a tourist or do something? And he's like, sure. So we go out and we do New York City and have lunch, very short conversation about guns and why I feel like I do. And I really wasn't I was really just trying to be nice and normal. Wasn't trying to be overly nice, just trying to be normal and get along. And so kind of fast forward to that evening, and they let us speak. There's a room of a couple hundred people probably, and the Time editor and the artist and all the people that had worked on the project. It was probably one of the highlights of my career. And they let me speak. I went first, and I'm telling how terrified we were to take part in this and that we were scared that we were going to get curried. And then it was Anton's turn. And Anton got up there and he said, so I spent the day with Dianna, and I've kind of changed my mind. I was like, what happened?
No.
Yeah, in front of everybody. So, that's just the kind, and I really do feel like we impacted those people that worked on the project, that they saw that we weren't what the mainstream media were portraying us as. So they got a taste of reality as opposed to the erroneous bad guy thing that we're usually tagged with. So that was a great story.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show tonight. Before we go, can I take a moment and say thank you? Listen, as we started the Whitetail Rendezvous podcast journey, we had no idea what to expect. But after 4 years, we received a ton of feedback from our over 400,000 listeners and climbing to 500,000. Speaking of which, we are now closing in on over 600 featured guests. Thank you. And a quick shout out to all those who have left an iTunes review and your feedback. I get those and really appreciate it. And it's awesome to see what you have to say, and we do read every single one of them. And I just want you to know that I am incredibly grateful for your kind words regarding the show. And all of the ratings and reviews help us attract more listeners. And if you're one of those new listeners, welcome. Great to have you. By the way, if you haven't taken the time to rate and review our show and like the Hunting on Private Land strategy on how to get permission to hunt a private property, go to whitetailrendezvous.com as a special gift for just rating and reviewing our show. When you get there, look for the start button to get the details. Listen, I'll share you the top technique from some of the top hunters in the country on how do they get permission to hunt on private land. I'll share with you the exact techniques they use to get permission. As my way of saying thanks for rating and reviewing the show on iTunes. So join us next time. And remember, we're all on this journey together, learning, sharing, and becoming 365 hunters. Just wrapping this up, the DC Project, one more time, how does somebody reach you or the DC Project?
So the DC Project is at dcproject.info. There's no spacing and there's no dots or anything like that. And Dianna Muller, 3Gun on Facebook, and Die 3Gun on Instagram. I'd love it for anybody to reach out to me or follow me on those platforms. But I also real quick wanted to tell you and your audience about the Ambassador Academy. So obviously the messaging in our community is important to me, and that's been placed on my heart. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I retired 5 years ago, and I've been doing it full time for 5 years as a sponsored shooter. And I get asked all the time about how do you get sponsored and things like that. So over the past 4 years, I've been like chewing on all of this. I've been on TV and I'm on Michael Bain's show, Shooting Gallery and Shooting USA and all these different shows. And I was like, I want to be better. I want to do better when it comes to being on camera. And there was really no place to get training. And Michael Bain would say, oh, you're doing a great job. And I was like, Michael, I can see the finished product. I suck. Get me some training. So it never happened. So I just did it last year. At the beginning of this year, I did what's called the Ambassador Academy. And I hired subject matter experts in all of these different areas, whether it be social media or film and edit or being an on-camera or doing hostile communications, like why does anybody need an AR-15? How do you answer that? So I call it the Ambassador Academy. I put it in front of a USPSA multi-gun 3-gun match in Florida at a buddy of mine's house that I call Tactical Disneyland because it's like Disneyland with guns. I offered it to my friends and we had a whole group full of people that are just learning how to be better messengers, whether it be for their partners or whether it be for the gun community at large or just their own brands. So that was a huge deal in my life of starting something new and I think it went really well. We're going to do another one in March of 2020. This one was focused on 3-gun. Like I said, I put it right in front of a 3-gun match, but I could switch out the live fire portion of it. I could switch that out to anything. I could switch it out to hunting. I could switch it out to sporting clays, any kind of discipline that goes along. The rest of the curriculum, it still applies the same way for social media and interviews and camera work and stuff like that. So if anybody's interested in that, they can get a hold of me about that as well. I'd love to talk to them about that.
And sounds like we need to do another show because I have another show on the Ambassador Academy. I have another show coming up just in a couple of minutes. One thing, and really quickly, I just want you to share that short story about you're on your way to Florida, pulling a gas station, and it's a ladies, for the ladies and guys, this is about situational awareness and just
Sure.
You have to take care of you. So go ahead.
You are your own first responder. And as a police officer for 22 years, I have a lot of training and situational awareness. But this just happened to me on my way to the Ambassador Academy this past February, March. And I pulled into a gas station, I think somewhere, maybe Little Rock, Arkansas. And
was it day or night?
It was the evening. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening, but it was a very well-to-do area, very well lit. My guard was completely down. I was in total green mode. I'm driving a little Porsche. I got a little dog in the car, and I put the gas pump in my car, and I turn around, and I'm getting approached by a young black male who didn't really give me any reason to think that he's kind of sagging, but I mean, I'm dead at profiling people, and I let him come in, and if I could help him, I would. And he had a story, and I kept saying, what do you want? I kept interrupting his story, and his story was about him and his wife, and he pointed to a car over to my right, and I could see a woman in there, so everything was lining up. And my husband hates that I stop and give people stuff. He thinks it's very dangerous, like this one could have been. And I stopped him from coming from more than 10 feet. And he's like, I feel like I shouldn't come near you. And I said, you shouldn't come near me. And at the time I had my gun in the car, but I didn't have it on me. So I said, you go sit in your car and I'll see what I have. Well, I'm sitting in my car and I see another guy walk straight over towards him, and he kind of pushes him off. He calls him off. And I was like, holy cow, all the training I've done. And I got tunnel vision on the first guy and his car and his wife. I thought that was the only area that I had to deal with. And just on the other side of my car was another car and another guy that was obviously working with him. And that really kind of just hit home for me, because I do train for that. And you can never train enough. And watch your six is all I got to say.
So folks, just be aware. And I wish every single listener, we live in a time, unfortunately, you're not safe any place you go, from a church to a mall to a grocery store to high school basketball. We all know the stories. Okay. So it's up to you to take care of you and your family, period.
Right.
That's my message to you today. Your final thoughts, and then we'll close.
I concur with you. Be your own first responder.
And with that, Dianna, Muller, I just really look forward to staying abreast, and I want you to use my voice here at Whitetail Rendezvous anytime you want. So that means when you get ready to go to DC next year, please call me and we'll get another podcast up. And then the ladies, the biathletes, the twins, I'd love to have them on the show and to keep this going. So I'm here to help you grow and get the word out.
All right. I've got plenty of stories for you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.